All right, Danielle, episode 19 is what we're on. This episode is sponsored by socialjobs.com. Check them out for everything social in your advertising needs. So 19 is life path. It's 19-1 at work. So there's kind of a dual edge here, which it reduces down to one, but it's the karmic leader learning to balance power and humility. And the core mission is learning how to step in power without ego. Oh, that's a good lesson. Visionary leadership, tenacity.
Yeah, no kidding. There's a few
Yeah,
people who I have that should get that lesson.
they might need it. But yeah, so that is the leadership style of episode 19-1. We're going to talk about the nostalgia. I feel like that has been lost on LinkedIn. Been getting a lot of spammy spams. I think I even got one. Oh, I know I did. I got one recently that said, "Congrats on your new role." It's like, yeah, 5 months
I've
ago.
had that happen a few times too, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's become a very different place where I saw something like okay, so here's an example. I'll just throw this out. So there's somebody that I follow who he has been looking for work for a long time, and he posts content every day trying to, I guess, and get engagement. And he started doing that thing where a lot of content creators do where they post surveys, which whatever. I know it's supposed to like, I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to start a conversation.
What was it, playing with the algorithm too, so you continue to lift? Because I think surveys play different in the algorithm with
Yeah,
a regular post. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And some of them are just they're dumb. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure people are like, I don't have any ideas. I'm just going to do this. But this one was around appropriate attire at a beach or pool or something like that. And I'm like, you're just really just trying to get people
Yes.
to respond, right? So I looked at some of the comments and somebody said something like, I don't really feel like this is relevant for LinkedIn. It wasn't that it was inappropriate because it wasn't pictures or anything, it was just a question. And then somebody else said, I understand that like all social media is a reflection of what's going on in society at the time. Like I can't remember exactly, but the gist of it was like, you know, LinkedIn is starting to become more private as, personal stuff as well as political and all that. It's all kind of becoming a mix. And so anyway, it got me to thinking like, what are we even doing? Like, I understand what his like he's trying to bring himself
Mm.
more up in the algorithm and get himself work, but yet at what expense? Like, aren't you kind of I almost feel like when you do that, it's sort of diminishing your own value. You know what I mean? Like you as a brand, you as a content creator, if that's what you want to do, doesn't that sort of diminish what you're putting out in the world? I don't know, but it sort of diminishes what you're putting out to me. I'm not going to be the one employing him, but still,
Yeah.
I'm just one opinion. That's what I feel like gets lost is that there's so much, and that what you do get exposed to can really influence how you think about people or companies and all of
I
that. What do you think?
I've noticed just a lot of, I'm gonna call it noise content out there, and things that are not really relevant
And that's what
to
it is, but
life
yeah.
and career and things of that nature. Like, I even feel like there's a lot of curated posts out there when I'm looking through feeds, or
Oh yeah.
so I kind of get fatigued, and I try to go on. I'm very protective of my LinkedIn personality and profile. Like, I do post stuff that's a little bit more, I try to do inspirational sometimes. I try to do lessons that I've learned throughout my career. I try to do different things that might resonate with different people, and not all the time the algorithm lifts on it, and that's okay for me. I don't feel like I need to reinvent myself or recreate myself or recreate something that I feel like is going to build traction based on the algorithm, because I'm just who I am and authentically me. So I see that stuff out there and I'm like, what's the purpose of it? It only has to be to get attention. And then you're outside of your core
Yeah.
of your authentic self. Like, yesterday I posted something about giving up my seat. about the time when I had to give up my seat. It was forced. They'll say it was a choice, but it was not a choice. This is when I had a board seat and I gave it. I was not in that same business. I went to
Yeah.
staffing and this was an RPO seat. So I gave it up to the person who was leading RPO. Did not get a thank you or anything. But, anyways, and I did not want to give it up because I eventually felt like I may go back into RPO. So it still would be relevant. It's still staffing. There's still parallels there, but I gave that up. So I posted about that. And then I posted about the times when, I've given it up and it just made complete sense to move over and pass someone else the mic or whatever that looked like because it was the right thing to do. And it was my time to do that. It wasn't anything that was forced or asked, or it was just the right thing to do. And then today I posted, what did I post about today? I think I posted about just how you look at people in an organization. And if you're just thinking that you can plug and play people anywhere and it doesn't matter what they've done and you're not having respect for the talent that they bring, it's probably not the right thing to do, right? You're not really leading with strategy. You're leading with pegs and holes, and that's going to fail later if you're not thinking about it strategically and what are people really good at. So that's what I posted. So my one yesterday got pretty good lift. My
Assembly
one
line.
today, we liked it as the Worksties. I will go on and like my own post. I have no shame in that and repost it to get the message out.
Oh, I
But
will too, yeah.
so to me, I didn't feel like, oh, I need to recreate something or do something different tomorrow. I'm still going to be the same person, authentic voice, because that's who I am. And I would like to see more of that on LinkedIn. There's a lot of self promotion, there's a lot of company
Mhm.
promotion, which I do some of that too, because we have some pretty cool stuff. But to your point, there's also off topic and anger. We talked a little bit about this with Toby in 17. 17. Talked a little bit about with the Toby to say, there's that, what is it, rage posting that happens, or someone saying completely off the wall to get attention. It's like, how do we, to your point, pare it back down to this is meaningful to me? Because I don't feel like LinkedIn algorithm even shifts to what I'm interested in. I don't think they care. I don't know. It's my opinion on what I see.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. And and I mean it applies not only just to what's on your home screen or for you page when you log in, but to how you're being targeted through in mails to be sold something or to even subscribe to a newsletter, all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh God, if you follow a company, just because you're curious about the company and you're like, oh, this seems like an interesting company. I'd like to follow them and be informed about whatever updates they have. And then suddenly you're invited to subscribe to,
Yeah.
it's like it becomes a bit much, and like, you have to kind of go in and sort of audit who you're following, you got to audit who, all that just to kind of,
Mm-mm.
and I don't have that kind of time, honestly, to kind of go through a cleanse, a LinkedIn cleanse, but maybe that's what people should do every once in a while is maybe go on a fast, a social media fast, and just log out for a while. Because I feel like that's one of those sites where people would do that with other things, but I don't
Yeah.
think people do it with LinkedIn, where they might step away, even if they're on vacation and supposedly, out of the loop and logged out and checked out for a family vacation. I
Yeah.
still feel like people
I
are on
might
there,
scroll, but I
you know?
don't usually check my
And
messages,
maybe
like if
that's,
I'm out, whatever, because I want to keep up with what's happening. I want to make sure
mhm,
I don't miss anything important, like if someone does get a promotion or there's something I'm interested in from a content perspective. But to your point, when I think about that cleansing piece, there's things that show up, but there's no way to replace. You know how like Facebook's like show more or less of this, right? And then it starts really populating you. It's still not great at what it populates for you and what it curates. But I think something like that on LinkedIn would be nice. Show me more of this content. It's not there today, right? Like I'm not imagining that it's not there. And I've just,
I'm aware of. No,
right. Like I want to see
not that I'm
everybody's
aware of.
promotions. I don't want to see everybody's, I want to see everyone's new job. I don't want to see their new job. Like I'm forced to see what they want me to see. And it was a place that
Right.
I went to for, I don't know, I just liked hearing of people's career stories. And I think that's why I became the persona I have on LinkedIn, right? It's authentically who I am. And I'm sharing these things because I enjoyed hearing things of the good, the bad, the ugly, not just like always the good or always the positive. Like you see people, and on LinkedIn too, you see people at their best, is what I'll call it. The majority of the time, not all the time. It's a
It's a
highlight
highlight.
reel of career
Yeah.
success, but tell me about the road you had
Right.
to take to get there because damn it, I know it wasn't an easy one, especially if you're like unless you were put this silver spoon in your mouth, right? Is that what they call it? So, silver spoon. And we were handed your CEO spot from your parent or, you inherited it or whatever it looked like. There still should have been somewhere to climb and a road to climb, but you can't overdo it too. Cause like, I feel like the one who has exhausted that a little bit is that Spanx CEO. I forget what her name is. Very inspiring woman, how
Oh
she
yeah.
invented
Yeah.
it and everything else.
Yeah. If I have to hear her
But
origin
sometimes I'm
story
like,
one more time.
all right, who are you helping today? I don't know. You get fatigued on there and
Right.
you can't really curate it to what you want to see. And then on top of it, you get in your inbox these spammy spam messages where 50% of the people don't even read what you do. So they're totally mistargeting you. Like, how do you fix that?
Which is
Yeah.
exhausting, because then you're like, well, do I even respond to this and let him know that you've mistargeted me, or not? Sometimes it's worth it just because you're like, you are so out of the loop on who I am or what I do and what I'm going to be interested in, and I don't know what that comes from. If it's because it's tied to, LinkedIn Sales Navigator and is Sales Navigator off in what it's targeting for you, then that's something you're paying for
Yeah.
and you might want to look into that, or is it just, I don't know.
Yeah, like when I
I
connect
wonder
with
about
someone
that.
new, I want to see, right? I don't want to have to go stalk their page. When I connect with someone new, can you just serve me up their recent activities so I can see what they're about and what their role is, or if they don't post at all, right? So I would love to be able to say I'm adding XYZ person, whoever that might be. Once I click, I'm connecting with them. Once they accept my connection, let's say it's not upon acceptance, it gives me a little summary to say, this is what Sally Sue has been up to. That's meaningful to me. And now I know if I have a conversation with Sally Sue, right? All of these things like, oh, so
Maybe
you've been talking about
like
whatever and
some
liking
ways
this.
that
Like,
you,
that's to me, that would be so much more meaningful than the way it works today.
and then maybe like ways that you kind of overlap. Like, did you both work at the same company, but not at the same time, or you've had similar roles? I mean, like, they have all that information. Why is the algorithm not providing it to you? Like that would be, I
Yeah.
would find that really helpful. So I could say, oh, hey, I see,
Yeah. I was just going to say, if you're going to be a professional
less.
network, be a professional network and help connect. Like, it does
Right.
say or whatever, so you have X connections there, so and so when you're looking up a company, these people who work here. But with the way AI is today, there's
Yeah.
definitely a better way to give people information. Remember that one tool? It was a plugin into your email. What was it called? I know they have different plugins today, but there was one like when we found it, this was like the holy grail because you could see so much information, but I don't think was it LinkedIn that didn't like it as a plugin and they kind of started.
Oh, yeah. LinkedIn didn't like a lot. And I remember one that we used that was really awesome
Yeah.
was Hiring Solved. And that one, you could find people on LinkedIn through that, but they blocked their AI. But yeah, like, I mean, but the shared connections and people that at this company, that's old technology. They've been doing that. Like, what I'm saying is, like, what you are alluding to is like, give me a little blurb, a some bullet points to say, hey, you just connected with so and so. They've been in this industry for 5 years and just started a new position at this company doing this. Like, give me a little introduction,
Yeah,
like a
here's the
true
hacks on
introduction.
Danielle and what she likes.
Like,
And here's some of her
here's the
latest
elevator
comments. And
pitch
she,
for
if
this
you're
person.
commenting on
Yeah,
things, which may or may not be good for people who are doing the A roast or like they're way out of their, so it might not be
right,
good for some, but it would be
right.
great
But I
to
mean,
see
I
that,
think that would be
you know? I don't know.
right. Use the technology for helping us to build better connections, better relationships
Yeah.
than
Yes,
what
and
you've been
understand our
doing for
network.
20
I think
years.
that's what we're asking for too, is to understand, because that one plugin that was sat over the email, that's what I remember. It kind of gave you a little summary. It shows you their LinkedIn profile, so then you could relate their picture to email, and then you can connect with them direct from that. It was at Elmer. This is how long ago this was.
I feel like I remember that, but I can't think of what it was called.
My
I
brain is
do
totally
remember that. I'd
it's
have to think
goofing
about
out.
it. It probably doesn't even exist before LinkedIn shut them down or bought them
Because
up
you could
or
do it for a while, and then they
something.
did. They don't like the plugins.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
changed their AI and blocked
Yep.
things, so
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, I would like to be able to
unfortunate.
manage that. I would like to see the summary. I would also like to be able to opt out from spam. I know some will go into a folder, but as soon as you connect with someone, if they're on a mission to sell, right, then you automatically are given that. Like I got one today that was, "Hey Jennifer, would you like to hire? Are you hiring?" And then they wanted to basically eliminate anybody in hiring and teach me how to do it myself and take the recruiter job away. And I was like, hello, I work in technology and we actually optimize the recruiter's desk. We're not trying to eliminate recruiters. We're trying to make them more efficient and bring time back to their desk so they can spend it with clients and hiring managers. It may result,
Like, you obviously have no concept of
no.
what it
So
is
I
I
think
do.
that too.
That's
Yeah.
counterproductive to what
Yeah.
I do. That's what I'm saying. There's just so much of that. Like, you obviously didn't bother
Mhm.
to like check. That's why I wonder, like, is this part of like Sales Navigator is connecting you to these people and suggesting that you network with them and send them a sales pitch and all of that? And if that's the case, then I think it's important to give those people that kind of feedback to let them know, like,
Yeah.
you've mistargeted me. And however it was that you found me or decided to target me, because we don't know each other in real life, say, then you need to look into that because that's a problem. And that's what I think I'm trying to say too is like, if you're paying for these connections and you're paying to in-mail people and try to sell them something via LinkedIn Sales
Hmm.
Navigator or LinkedIn Recruiter or whatever the case may be for whatever it is you're working on, that's really important to make sure that you're connecting to the right people, because I think that's part of what's the problem that we're seeing today with LinkedIn is that we're just being fed all this garbage. And that's LinkedIn needs to fix that. It's not necessarily just that people are posting irrelevant content. It should be irrelevant, but then LinkedIn should be able to notice that it's irrelevant and suppress some of that or put it much further
Yeah.
down in your feed. You know what I mean? Um, so I feel like it's almost like I mean, I don't want to say they're deliberately doing it, but it sort of feels like they're not doing anything about it, you know? So you're seeing garbage. It's like garbage in, garbage out. You know what I mean? And if I was paying for a LinkedIn Sales Navigator license and I had a small business or I was a salesperson and I was paying for this and it wasn't getting any traction, I would be curious as to why that is, but I don't know that people are ever doing enough due diligence to kind of go back and see, hey, these are all the people I approached. None of them responded to me. Were those even good connections, you know? And I would take that to my sales rep and say, and I think that and I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent here.
Soapbox it
But
up, girl.
further, like when we've talked about Indeed, it's sort of it's the same thing because that's why I think smaller companies aren't getting the same support out of Indeed that they were before because Indeed isn't working for those people. And so those are the people who are going to yell the loudest, because they have a smaller budget, they have less jobs. They need that attention and they need those results faster than like a bigger company. Because a bigger company they're absorbing a lot all at the same time. And sure, they're going to pay attention to the numbers, but not at the same level a company that's maybe spending $5,000 a month or whatever the case may be, comparatively. So if you're a small company and you only have, one salesperson and they have one sales navigator license and maybe one recruiter who has a recruiter license, maybe they're spending, you know, $10,000, $20,000 a year on LinkedIn products, LinkedIn doesn't care about that. I mean, sure, they'll pretend that they do, but not really. They're not going to put salespeople behind you to help make sure that you're trained properly. I mean, they won't even train people at companies that are paying millions of dollars, let alone train people how to use and how to track and make sure that the results are right and all of that. So I think that's, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that other than like there's something jacked up in the system, like
Yeah, there
something needs
definitely
to be
is. I
fixed.
think about also when I'm targeted and it's completely off base, and then I get a note that says, "If you please could respond because it helps me with my." I'm just not responding. I'm not going to let the next person suffer too.
Right.
Like I took one for the team. That's what I consider it. So sometimes I won't say anything back
Right.
just
And
because I know it
if I
gives them
just
more ammo. And I'm like, if you mistargeted me, who else are you mistargeting? And I don't know how close they are to me in my network, but I
yeah,
figured I took one for the team, so I don't respond back. Is that not nice? I don't know, but it's just such a
right.
mismatch. Like, how did you get it so wrong? Maybe, and sometimes every now and then, like I'll message back and be like, yeah, no, that's nothing close to what I do, or that's nothing close to what's I would be looking at in my wheelhouse or whatever else. So I think some of it too, I'm not sure it's all on LinkedIn. I think some of it that is on whoever the end user
Right.
is, and they're not paying attention. They're just blasting everybody, which are supposed to stop people from doing, but they're just out there blasting, blasting, blasting. And,
Exactly.
if you have unlimited or whatever, you're not really paying attention. You're saying, what can I convert? But it ruins your reputation. It ruins your company's reputation too, to say, man, they don't even know what they're doing out there. So I think being really considerate and diligent on LinkedIn too is important. And I think to your point of why don't they maybe suppress or whatever else, I don't know if they're afraid to, because if you suppress, and here's what I mean by afraid to, because if you start to suppress and you have someone promote, now they're not getting the impressions, they're not getting all the things that they paid for. So in turn, it's going to impact the revenue stream. If you're allowed to control your algorithm, it is in turn going to impact LinkedIn's revenue stream because now you have a smaller audience. So I don't think
Exactly.
it's about
Right.
anything other than how do they maintain
No,
revenue?
and that's exactly my point, is that it's to their advantage for things not to be optimized, because it's to their advantage for you to see garbage you don't want to see and just think it's the fault of the person who's posting, and not really that they're you're being targeted for this for some reason, and that it's the same with the sales pitches and all of that. It's just it's bad
Yeah,
information that's being
I think
served up.
exactly at what
At what
cost. And then when I think about the conversation we had with Caleb and that generation, and are they using LinkedIn and what does that look like? And he said, I use it because I feel like I have to. There's always an opportunity. Like I'm a LinkedIn
right,
fan. I'm an Indeed fan. Like these were tools that were great for us back in the day, right? But then they got into the let me hold my money bag and run around, and they didn't evolve the way that maybe they need to evolve. All I see is Mr. Monopoly when I think about these two companies. See them run around that.
right.
So if someone can create something that serves up content to you, also when you think about how people are searching for jobs, right? They're trying to go through like a chat GPT or something to say, tell me about these jobs, who has the highest pay rate, what does it look like? And now companies are scrambling to SEO optimize and make sure that they're searchable on something like a chat GPT. There's a whole I had a client ask us like, how do we get optimized on here? So we went down that rabbit hole. It is a pretty big one. There's a lot you need to do to make sure that you're able to be searchable on there when the candidate says, serve this up to me. Very interesting. But anyways, which, is something that we're doing now. But when we look at that, if you're changing the way job seekers are looking for jobs and you're shifting that, you have this generation or these generations coming in that say, I might not even be on LinkedIn, or I'm on LinkedIn because I feel like I have to be on LinkedIn. And then you have this shifting dynamic paradigm. I always like to say that paradox that we're in, where everything's just really shifting at this rapid pace, there's always this opportunity to either one, improve and listen to people and what they're saying, or two, ignore, deaf ear, and someone is going to come in. I don't know when it is, but the good times don't last forever. Blockbuster being the, you know, example of this. In the way that we're now building community, in the way that we're engaging within community, and you have like the TikToks and the, you know, all these things that come out that people thought would not be successful that are. Think about that money that's sitting there at like the TikToks of the world. All it takes is someone to listen, figure this out, and your population's gravitating somewhere else that's really meaningful. Because if you could do the things that we talked about, hey, I just connected with so and so, here's all the things that they did. Imagine if there was this new platform and they allowed you to import that information over. You could just boop it, and then it's pulling all your, so you don't have to recreate your profile, and you could do that at mass and scale, and then you have this whatever. People would move, people would gravitate to it. So and I feel like they have an opportunity, always an opportunity to get it right. It's whether you listen or not.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Right. It's a good point because I feel like, especially, as long as we've been using LinkedIn, we've seen the landscape of other technologies change. They just, sure, they've added more features, they've added games, stuff like I don't need to be
All right,
engaged with LinkedIn
so
to
I
play a
have a
game.
confession for
It
you,
I
Danielle,
don't
on
I
that.
don't want. I knew it. I knew this was.
I am so competitive. I got involved in the one where you do like the numbers, you connect the numbers together. And I play this thing every day when I first wake up. So I like it because it's like a brain thing for me when I
Sudoku.
first wake up in the morning. So I do it on there because I don't want to go to another app or whatever. And LinkedIn reminds me, like, hey, don't lose your streak. So I would like to confess that I'm a
Yeah,
gamer
there's some
on
that I play
LinkedIn.
on the
And I
New
like
York
to
Times.
compete and see I'm smarter than 75% of CEOs. And
There's
I'm smarter
there's
than more
some.
than 75%. But, anyways,
Well, yeah, that I don't know that all CEOs are necessarily that smart, but okay, some are for sure, but not all. But yeah, there's some that I play on the New York Times app. Connections and Wordle I'm really good at, and then they have a new one that's like a word thing. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, yeah, I don't want to like have to go onto a social media every day to like do that, but my point is just that that's the way that they've made it more
yeah.
engaging, is to add games. And that really shouldn't be what they're doing. Like, that's not, to me, not an
No,
effective use of the technology to make it so you want to go on because you want to play the game every day. I don't feel like it needs to be
I'm not
gamified
going on to
in
play the
that way.
game. I'm going on because I always go on to LinkedIn and check my feed. And then, by the way, I've started to engage in this game. So then I
Right.
play that while I'm there. But you know what? The other thing is, I feel like if they're going to gamify it, I should be able to see, this might be a request, how I'm comparing to the people who are playing. I would like a leaderboard. You know, it doesn't really show you, like, because I think it doesn't want to make people feel like,
Yeah.
right,
Of
it
your
shows me the
connection.
connections that are playing, but it doesn't show me how well I'm doing compared against them, which I guess is a touchy subject. I don't know.
Well, I used to play like yeah, no, I completely agree because, like I used to play Words with Friends, which is, sort of the generic Scrabble game for years with people. Like when I first got an iPad, I started playing that years ago. And there was people that I was connected to where we would play via Facebook. I can't remember exactly how it all worked, but I remember I had an app on my iPad and I played it. And I was pretty ruthless when it came to playing people. And it got to the point where people wouldn't play me anymore because I would
I can
always
see that.
win. And I mean, it got a little hostile. It got a little hostile. I'm gonna admit it. And so I had to stop playing that because I do get really competitive with that. So I can imagine that, but I think that would be cool, especially if it's a game that you can only play like once a day and then it's done. Like there's just one. Whereas, like Words with Friends, you could have play with like 50 different people and have games going all the time, and that's such a time suck. But you know, like if you play once a day and then you could just look and see like, oh, you compare to these people who your
Yeah.
connections,
I
that
would
would
like
be
to
cool,
submit
you
some
know.
beef on time
And
because when I was doing the number one, it like I was connecting everything, but it's saying I wasn't connected. So it added time. I had to go back out and go back in. So it looked like did it in like a minute and something. It was really literally 30 seconds. So I'd like a credit on my time I spent on that one. But it's great because you do it one time. Like I feel like it's good for my brain. And then off I go. I move on to something else, but I do it when I'm checking my feed. So, you know, I had to thanks for allowing me to confess that I played the game on LinkedIn.
no, I had a feeling. My point was not that the games are a problem or that you have a
Yeah,
problem
I
for
do.
playing the games. It's just that I feel like there
Yes.
should be doing more with the technology than just
Yes.
adding games. That was my point. Is that these are the enhancements we're seeing. We're not seeing actual helpful things that will help you in your career, help you run your business. You know what I mean? That's what I'm having a problem with. The games are fine, but they shouldn't be at the cost of other
I
features.
think there's a way to network and connect better for sure. For sure. And then sometimes when I go on through my phone, it doesn't allow me to put a personal note. So, like, I've made a habit of going on the computer when I connect with people. Well, sometimes, like, I did one recently where it was just like the generic thing. But I thought that's like if you can fix all of those pieces. Oh, and then today I was trying to send someone a post and it was twice. And I wanted to send it to them. And it was two people to say, yes, I am talking about this. I would love to do this, blah, 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 blah. Right. And when I was on my phone and I swiped down, it closed my whole message and I had to start over. And I kept accidentally doing it because I was trying to do something else and I swiped down. So everything that I typed went away. So it doesn't like allow you in the phone format if you're sending a message to someone or you're sharing like that post and then you're commenting on it. It doesn't allow you to like save that for later, or it doesn't remember if you go and you re-click to send it, like what you were doing. That was so, I gave up twice. I did it and I was like, dang it, Jennifer. I was like, if I really want to send this, I'll go on my computer and do it
I've had
later
the
or
thing
tomorrow. But
where
it was so frustrating. Like, I want that to be fixed too.
sometimes it's not always, yeah, sometimes it's not always efficient to have to go and get on your laptop. But yeah, I've had that happen where I go to connect with someone on LinkedIn and it doesn't give me the prompt to like message them as part
Mm-hmm.
of the connection request. You know, like sometimes
Yeah.
it does, but not every time. And like why is that? Then I have to wait until they accept the connection and then I can message
Mm-hmm.
them. Why? You know, like it should tell you, well, you're only going to be able to send this. You're not going to be able to send a message
Yes.
included in this connection
Yeah. You should be able to
request.
do that every single time. You should be able to customize your message, whether you're on your laptop or phone or whatever else. So I agree with you there. Because that's also, I was like, I was going to say, yeah, I look like a douche nozzle, but sending just the generic, hey, I'd like to connect. Like, I just met this person. I spent time with them. I should
Right.
be doing this a better way, but I don't have time to go to my lap, or I might forget or get involved in something else. So I just send it as is. But yeah, I think there's some real opportunities. So again, would love a seat at the table, tell you some ideas that we have. Happy to explore. Because there's some really good things about, like I said, indeed, huge fan. It helped us in the, back in the day. And how did they get back to what they're really good at in really supporting employers and candidates? And then same thing with LinkedIn. I mean, been on this platform for, I don't even know how many years now. It was back at um, Orbital. Yeah, I was back at Orbital. So this
Orbital.
is 20 years. I don't know how old LinkedIn, but it's got to be somewhere around 20 years that we've been on that platform because it was when we were servicing that one account
Yeah.
together. So we got on it there. So it's
Client.
somewhere in the ballpark of 20 years and it was so good and effective. And there's still so many good and
Yeah.
effective parts of it, but I think it's become more about the financial side versus let's continue to improve this technology to make it really cool. So more people come here and what would make those Gen Zers and the younger generations want to gravitate to LinkedIn, I think they really need to figure that out. And it's not, to your point, it's not the games. Is how do they really get to a good place in their career? If they coupled their technology with what we talked about, I think it was last episode, where we were saying if you could actually give people some advice and as they have their profiles on and upload their resume, these would be jobs that would be a truly great fit for you and get that part right. And here's how you can translate your skills. That would be more beneficial. And I think people would go there. The younger generation would go there too, because it would help them navigate their way through their career versus they don't know who to connect with right now and go on and try to, no one's training them on that.
No. And I think that I was just looking at I looked up the wiki of LinkedIn, and it was launched May 5th, 2003. So just over 22 years ago. And I think I signed up in like 2005 or something like that.
It was very new. So it might have been
Okay.
2004,
So,
2005-ish with me. Yeah.
but see, that's like would be kind of cool information to know. Like if they gave you like a happy anniversary, you've been on LinkedIn since, for 20 years now. Or, because LinkedIn does that, or not LinkedIn, but Facebook does that. They'll say, oh, you share a memory with this person from this day, or you've been connected to this person you connected with them on this day
Here's
in
when you connected with
2009
them.
or whatever. So, like, they should
Yeah,
do some
that'd
stuff,
be so helpful.
right? Because then that might even like, oh, that's a good opportunity to reach out to that person and just say, oh my gosh, I just saw that we've been connected for 15 years today. I remember we connect because sometimes I look at people and I'm like, I have to really do some reconnaissance work to figure out how do I know them? Like, okay, I connected with them on this day. I was working at this company. And then I have to go back and look at their profile to see where they were working at the time and say, oh, yeah, I worked for a company that was their client and they were my sales rep or whatever. But that would be kind of interesting if it gave you that information to say, hey, Danielle, you and Jennifer connected on this day in this year and you were both working at this company.
Yeah, that would
Okay,
be really
like
cool.
that would be cool. Or you weren't working at the same company, but they were working at this company and you were working at this company. And then that would make like really meaningful engagement, with people because that's what I think is part of what is missing is that engagement with people that you've connected with that you're not currently working with or that you haven't worked with in a long time or whatever the case may be. Like
Yeah.
that could
And
be
you
really
used to be able
powerful,
to
I
see,
think.
like, you used to be able to search, like, what number person you were on LinkedIn, like user blah, 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 blah. And it was in the URL
Do
somewhere,
that
but I think
anymore.
they erased that part of it. Like, you can't find that anymore. Your name.
Yeah, they made it so that
Hmm?
it's just your name. Yeah, so that that's just basically drops to your profile. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a way to do it.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Like, how long have I been on? How am I connected to this person? When did I connect to this person? Where was I working? You connected with this person when you're working at XYZ. And then you kind of know, all right, so I met
Hmm.
them somewhere around this time, or somehow they popped up on my feed, or so you can start to your point, do some remembering, and then be able to have that, especially if you want to re-engage with someone or whatever. You can't remember from 20 years ago. Sometimes you can. I can
Right.
remember exactly where I met someone or whatever, but to your point, I got to do some
Well,
recon
especially if I
sometimes. Like, how do
worked
I
with
know this
someone.
person?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to be like the CIA out here and trying to figure out all the connection points. I mean, if I worked with them on a day-to-day basis, then I would remember that. But if we only connected briefly for whatever reason, that would like jog my memory on how I met them, or we met at a an event, like maybe we met at like a networking event or SIA or something like that, and I had a conversation with them and we made sure to connect on LinkedIn, but then that was the end of it.
Great. We've
Well,
beat up LinkedIn quite a
yeah,
bit. I mean, we
I
did
think
say
that's a
some
good
good things, what we
takedown of
like.
LinkedIn for today.
So, and what it's good for and how you can use it.
Yeah.
But there are some opportunities, I think. And then how do we get to a better place where the content is really what you want to see? But again, I think that might be off the table just because of the way that the charges happen.
Yeah, and I do think that if they aren't listening to their customers who are giving them a lot of money, why would they listen to anybody else?
Right. Yeah. again, still on there, still a fan, but there are some opportunities.
For sure. For sure.
Let's wrap it up.
All right. So this episode was sponsored by Social Jobs. Check out socialjobs.com to socialize your jobs.
Like, share, follow, comment. We are on all of your favorite listening portals. Links to the show notes below. You can check out Osreen Skincare, check out Social Jobs, buy us a cup of coffee. Until next time, bye.
In a